series, Faith and a Few of Its Heroes. Let's talk about it. Jesus, coffee. Much needed coffee this morning. So let's talk about faith and a few of its very early heroes. So I'm going to go in Hebrews 11. Go over verses 1 and 2, and then really go into a few of its very early heroes. Verses 1 and 2 really unfold and lay out faith. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. For by it, the elders obtained a good testimony. By faith, we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that the things which were seen, not made of things which are visible. So that the things which are seen were not made by things which are visible. So things that we can see were made by those we can't see. Pretty cool, huh? But that's really the drawdown of faith, right? It's a substance of things hoped for. It's the evidence of things not seen. You know, so often believers, when they're talking to skeptics, get trapped by one word. Very much a trap. Good morning, my mermaid. And that trap is in the word proof. Well, give me proof that God exists. Well, there's no proof that God exists. That's the trap. There's a whole boatload of evidence, but there's no proof. To a believer, all the evidence is proof, but you can't prove it. To us in our heart, those of us with faith, it's totally obvious. But those that don't have faith, it's not obvious. It's anything but. So I want to go over verses 4 through 7 and talk about 3 early, very early pre-flood heroes. And you'll see how by faith they were amazing. So we're going to talk about Abel, the offspring of Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel. Talk about Abel, their son. We're going to talk about a man named Enoch, and you'll hear about Enoch. And we're going to talk about Noah. We're going to talk right up to the flood. So, by faith, Abel offered to God a more excellent sacrifice than Cain, through which he obtained witness that he was righteous, God testifying of his gifts, and through it, he being dead still speaks. So when Cain and Abel was in charge of taking care of the land, Cain was in charge of taking care of the flock. Abel offered up, they were both to offer up their first fruits to God, and Abel's offering was pleasing to God. Cain's offering was not pleasing to God. And that angered Cain. So he struck down Abel in envy and killed him. But Abel was found righteous. So And then we go on to see Enoch. So by faith, Enoch was taken away so that he did not see death, and was not found because God had taken him. For before he was taken, he had this testimony that he pleased God. But without faith, it is impossible to please him. For he who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is the rewarder of those who diligently seek him. And what does Jesus say in the Sermon on the Mount, right? Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be opened. When we seek, and we know that God says in Jeremiah 29:13, when you seek me, you will find me, when you seek me with all of your heart. Well, we can't seek with all of our heart unless we have faith. And what does it say right there in Hebrews 4, verse 6? Without faith, it is impossible to please him. For he who comes to God must believe that he is. So when you come to God, you must believe that he is God, which takes faith, right? It's the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Because if we see it, it doesn't take faith to see something. It takes faith to believe in something you don't see. If you see it, that doesn't take faith. It just takes vision. It's not faith. And then, so Enoch was so pleasing to the Lord that his faith was so pleasing to the Lord that God just said, come on up here. Come on, let's just come hang with me. Enoch never died. Enoch went from cruising around on the earth to cruising around in the glory of God in heaven, in the kingdom, without dying. One of the only two men in the Bible that their death was never recorded. Well, technically there's three, but one is still questionable, and that's Melchizedek. Good morning, Janice. And the other one is Elijah. So Enoch and Elijah, which in the rapture and in the tribulation are believed to be the two messengers that God will send down and proclaim to the world that he is God. So those two are believed to be Enoch and Elijah, because their deaths were never recorded. And those two messengers will actually experience a death and a resurrection through the tribulation. The third person we're going to talk about is Noah. How great a faith would that have taken, right? Hey, Noah, it's never rained, but I want you to build an ark. I want you to build this massive boat. We know that God was a carpenter because he told Noah exactly how to build it, exactly the dimensions, exactly the angles of the roof, told him the IKEA version of the ark. So by faith, Noah, being divinely warned of things not yet seen, right? The flood, not yet seen. Moved with godly fear, prepared an ark for the saving of his household, by which he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness, which is according to faith. So by faith, he stepped out and built an ark. Can you imagine the ridicule he must have taken? What is that thing for? It's gonna rain a lot. Really? Really? What is that? Oh yeah. Yeah. Wiped out the earth. Saved his house. Saved humanity through faith. hero, which is why those three are called the heroes of faith at the dawn of history. Because when you look at, they are all pre-flood. All three of them are pre-flood. And then we'll get into some post-floods throughout the week. We'll get into Abraham, and we'll get into talking about the patriarchs of the faith. Moses, Abraham, so all through there. But great opening to talking about three pre-flood. How cool that must be. My favorite in those three is hands down Enoch. He just went from cruising around on the earth to come on up. Yes, God sealed Noah and the animals in the ark. Yep. I mean, how else would... And then, I mean, it took total faith to not only build the ark, the collection of the animals, and knowing how long to be out, and knowing that God was going to provide the food necessary for his family and the animals. Yeah. And then to trust when to come off the ark. Yeah. They were on there for a good long while. It was certainly not the SS Minnow. So, I love you guys. I love talking about the heroes of the faith, because it's so cool, and it allows you to see that, wow, like the faith that we have today is like, you can't really compare faith, because faith is faith is faith. Everybody's faith looks different. But, yeah, so cool. And then Abel does a good job and says, hey, here you go, and then gets whacked. So, yeah. He spent a little bit of time in either Abraham's bosom or the kingdom without people there. He was the first person there. So, yeah. So we will, I love you guys. He loves you like crazy. And we'll be back tomorrow to talk about some more heroes of the faith and whatever Dad wants to talk about. Love you guys. I'm loving this slow connection stream I keep getting on the bottom of my screen. Love you guys.